Good afternoon and good morning. Welcome back to the Charlie Mike webinar series hosted by the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. Today is part 3 of our 17-part webinar series. I'm Earl Morgan, the NVSBC Program Director, and to our new attendees, thank you for joining us today. Again, we'd like to thank our 4 sponsors that made this webinar series possible. All right, today's runtime for this webinar is 1 hour and it's being recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the NVSBC Charlie Mike replay webpage. If you have any questions after the presentation, please type it in the text box on your screen. If you're not able to answer your question in a lot of time, we will get the answer for you and post it on the Charlie Mike replay webpage. Now introducing our moderator, the Executive Director for the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, Mr. Scott Jensen.
Thanks, Earl, and hello, everybody out there. Good morning and good afternoon to all those spread around this fine nation. It's great again to be here with you as in another exciting installment of the Charlie Mike series. Today, we're joined by Patrick Alcorn. Patrick is the Executive Leadership Coach for the John Maxwell team, as well as the Director of the University of Texas Arlington's VBOC. An Executive Leadership Coach who recognizes the power of influence. He uses a combination of his West Point experience, a master's in business administration, and relevant real-world knowledge of leadership principles and practices to enable others to discover their inherent talents, skills, and abilities so that a picture of the limitless possibilities become crystal clear. Having served as an NCAA athlete, a U.S. Army engineer, a deputy city councilman, and award-winning sales professional for a Fortune 100 company, Patrick knows how to empower you to get up, get out, and keep moving, even under the most difficult circumstances. As a co-author, an executive coach, and a keynote speaker, he delivers power, passion, and a dynamic experience to diverse audiences. We're blessed today to have him here delivering that to this audience, and we're pleased to have him here with us. Patrick, welcome. We're glad you're here, and thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to help us with this, and we look forward to speaking with you today. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, both Scott and Earl. I'm excited to be here, and I can hardly wait to get started. I appreciate the relationship that I have with the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, and I appreciate everything that you all do to help empower the military-connected entrepreneur community, specifically those who are working in the contracting space, government contracting, corporate contracting, so on and so forth. It's a critically important space for us. You know, what's interesting, and the purpose of our talk here today, make sure if you would, on your screen, you should be seeing my presentation. Somebody would just shout out, yes, 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 then I'll know that we're all on the same sheet of music and we can go forward from here.
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome, thank you, Earl. So the bottom line is this: in a crisis, you know, mature people look at things differently than those who get stuck in a crisis. They see things differently. And according to my mentor and my friend, John Maxwell, there's at least 11 different ways to see things in a crisis. And so what he's created and what he's developed is this thing that he calls 11 different perspectives that empower leaders to turn adversity into advantage and lead well. And today what we're going to do is we're going to specifically look at least 3 of those 11 perspective principles. When you look at the 11 perspective principles, you'll see them right here on the left-hand side of your screen. John is one of the top leadership gurus in the nation. He's written over 80 books on leadership, team development, communication. He's been the keynote speaker and the primary speaker at each one of the military academies, including my alma mater at West Point, the Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, and all of the academies. He's spoken to heads of states in countries all around the world, not just in the US, but all around the world. He's been a coach, an executive coach, and a leadership coach for Fortune 100 company CEOs and folks that are in the executive suite in major companies all around the world, so not just US companies. So when John speaks, people listen. I've had the opportunity to work with John since 2014 and have been personally mentored by him to learn the leadership principles that he teaches. Many of you are familiar with one of his well-known works, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and then you're probably familiar with so many of his other works that are out there, 15 Laws of Growth, 5 Levels of Leadership, and I can go on and on with the content that he's added to the field of leadership. His main philosophy, and a philosophy that I believe in, a philosophy that I teach by and I live by, is that everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. When I'm working with new entrepreneurs, folks who are trying to get their businesses up and running, and they say, my business failed because I didn't have access to capital. I say, wrong answer. They say, my business failed because I couldn't find any customers. I say, wrong answer. They say, my business failed because my product wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, or because my partner this or my partner that. I mean, I get a million different reasons as to why people suggest that their business failed. And I always respond, wrong answer. Your business fails for one reason and one reason only: leadership. Leadership, because everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. With the right leader can help you find access to capital and get the capital that you need. With the right leader can go out and research the market in the right way so that you can find the customers that you are looking for. With the right leadership, you can develop the right processes and everything that you need in order for your business to survive. With the right leadership, you can make it through any crisis. So everything rises and falls on leadership. It's a philosophy that I live by, it's a philosophy that I believe in, and it's philosophy that I want to put in front of you as we go through today's content, because I want to make sure that you understand that whatever you went through in 2020 and whatever you're going through now, it's not the economy's fault, because good things and bad things happen in every economy. It's not the weather's fault, because good things and bad things happen in good weather and bad weather. It's not the virus fault, the coronavirus fault, because good things and bad things happen in the midst of viruses and in the midst of world catastrophes. And the thing that makes the difference in every situation is how the leader leads through that particular crisis. It's critical that you as a leader learn and adapt the 11 perspective principles that John talks about when he talks about 11 perspective principles about crisis. As we run through these principles, what you're going to find is today we're only going to talk about 3 of those principles. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Principle number 1. You and I both know that anything worth having is worth doing the work for. And nothing is easy. Nothing worth having comes easy. It's all uphill. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's always an answer. The leader always recognizes that no matter what the situation is, there's an answer. There's a way through. There's always a way through. And the difference in successful people and unsuccessful people is how they think, and how they think about finding the answers. And then the last one we'll take a look at today is that you have to recognize that in every adversity, in every upside down scenario, in every challenging scenario, the scenario itself, the crisis itself, it gives you an opportunity to discover who you really are. You get to learn about your strengths, your weaknesses, your shortcomings. You get to learn about your power. You get to learn about your knowledge. You get to learn about all your different gaps. You get to learn about the gaps in your organization. You get to learn about the gaps inside yourself internally. You get to learn about the weaknesses of your team and of the individuals that you work with. You get to learn about the weaknesses about your process. All of that is revealed in a crisis. Because when your comfort zone is dismantled, when it's broken down, you're forced to face who you really are. You're forced to look at what your company really looks like. You're forced to look at who you really are as a leader and how you're doing as a leader. So with that said, let's do this. We're going to take a look at 3 of the 11 perspective principles. And I'm actually going to let the master himself share with you those 11 perspective, or those 3 of those 11 perspective principles. So let's listen in right now as John shares 3 of the 11 perspective principles.
Okay, here we go. Perspective principles. How we view things is how we do things. I'm going to give you, I'll give you probably maybe 3 now, and then tomorrow I'm going to give you 8. Okay, so I think you're about 11 perspective principles. So don't miss what I'm going to give you.
Yeah, Patrick, this is Scott. It doesn't look like the video is going to play through due to the lag.
Scott, give it 1 minute.
Hey, Patrick, I'm getting some people writing in saying they can't listen to the audio.
Okay, we'll kill that. Okay, so let's just get back with me then. What's on your screen?
I see the GoToWebinar connection, the website. Nope, now I see your presentation.
Okay, so we'll just go right there. So let me apologize to everybody who's participating and attending this webinar. We tested it the other day and everything worked fine, but here in Dallas, we're having a bit of a snowstorm, and so all the electricity's out. And so I'm working with the hotspot from my cell phone, and so I have a little less bandwidth than we had the other day when we were testing. But let's get on with it. We're talking about everything worthwhile being uphill is principle number 1. And the leader recognizes that regardless whether it's good times or it's bad times, that everything worthwhile is uphill. And what that simply means is this: we already know that in good times, when we're trying to get from point A to point B, that it's always going to be an uphill battle. When you started your contracting company and you started your business in government contracting, it wasn't an easy road for you. You knew that it was an uphill battle to begin with. The road uphill may not have been as steep as it is in the midst of a crisis like we're suffering here in the coronavirus crisis, but it was still uphill. And you made it through that uphill battle. You did the things that were necessary in order for you to get from point A to point B and to survive and to get up that particular hill to be where you are today. If you're just now starting your business, then you need to know that it's going to be an uphill battle. Everything's not going to be all roses, right? You're not going to be looking through rose-colored glasses, as my friend Zig Ziglar used to say. You're going to be working hard. It's not a 40-hour work week. It's not a job. It's an adventure for you, like they say in the Navy, right? So you recognize that this battle is an uphill battle. And in the midst of a crisis like we have right now with the coronavirus or any other crisis that comes along that faces us along the way, if the government changes its regulations, when laws change, if access to capital changes and the money starts to flow differently, if you lose a key employee, or you have a major contract and you lose that major contract, in that moment, you'll recognize once again that the battle is uphill. And once you recognize and acknowledge that the battle is uphill, then you simply put your head down and you drive uphill until you succeed, until you achieve the things that you need to achieve. So the first perspective number one for any leader in crisis is just this simple acknowledgement and the simple recognition that it's always uphill. It always has been uphill, and it always will be uphill. And there's no difference in the moment of a crisis than there is when the crisis is not before you. It's always uphill. The hill may be a little steeper, but it's always uphill. And the same tactics, the same processes, the same will, the same drive, the same motivation, the same energy that you took to go up that narrow hill is the hill that is the same that's required for you to go up that steeper hill in the midst of a crisis. So again, perspective number one is recognizing and acknowledging that everything worthwhile is uphill. If you believe in your business and what it is that you're doing and the value that you're bringing to your customers, it's worthwhile. And because it's worthwhile, you'll take the hill. In the military, the commander would say, see the hill, take the hill. Might not be as relevant for you folks who are from the Navy or from the Air Force, but the Marines and the Army, we understand very clearly what it means to see the hill and take the hill. The same thing with you guys in the Navy and the Air Force, you know what it means to see the objective and go and take the objective, and we do it by any means necessary. So principle number two, there's always an answer. There's always an answer. Principle number two, or should I say perspective number two. How we see things, in other words, how we view things is how we do things. So how you look at a crisis will determine how you come through that crisis. When we started off in this coronavirus environment, I'll share first a personal anecdote with you, and then I'll share a business anecdote with you. On the personal anecdote is this: when we first started off in this coronavirus environment, my family and I, we were actually on vacation at the end of February, beginning of March. We had been gone for 2 weeks. And when we came back from vacation the first week in March, I said to my team at the office, I said to my team, hey, it looks like this coronavirus thing that's happening overseas at the time is about to happen here in the US. And so we're going to start working remotely. And I'll tell you how we came to that decision and what we were prepared to do at that time. But the bottom line is we made that decision that particular day that I came back from vacation. I sent my team home and we all started working remotely. 3 days later, the US government all of a sudden announced that we needed to shut down for a minute and everybody was going to start working under these stay-at-home shelter in place rules that came out, that came into effect. So that was 3 days after I'd already sent my team home. Now, a lot of people were stressed out about the fact that they were sheltering in place, but let me tell you the personal anecdote of sheltering in place for me. My wife is not a real fan of dancing. You know, I like to dance. She doesn't necessarily like to dance. But the minute this coronavirus environment started, we were looking for some activities to do at home because we couldn't go anywhere, right? We couldn't go out to the streets. We couldn't go entertain ourselves and so forth. So we jumped up on YouTube and we started watching line dance videos on YouTube. That would have been part of my video. If my video was working today, you would have seen some of that. But we started watching these line dance videos. And we really, really learned all of these different line dances, and we started practicing and doing these line dances together. So we got on the phone. I have 4 grown children and 8 grandchildren and so forth. So we got on the phone and we called all of our kids and we challenged them all to a line dance competition. And so this is how we began to stay in touch with our family. We began to stay in touch with our family. We sent them the link to the YouTube videos, got everybody watching the YouTube videos and watching all of these line dances and so forth. And then we did a Zoom call, family Zoom call, where we were all competing against one another, trying to do these line dances. Why do I say that? And why do I share this personal anecdote with you? Because it's about perspective. It's about recognizing that there's always an answer, and how we view things is how we do things. A lot of people view the coronavirus environments as upsetting their lifestyle, as upsetting the way that they do things, as upsetting their ability to interact with their loved ones and with their family and their friends. We took a very different perspective. Our view of this crisis was, wow, this is an opportunity for us to do things that we really hadn't tried before. This was an opportunity for us to do things that we really hadn't done before. Something fun, something creative, something new, something different, so on and so forth on the personal side. On the business side, it was the exact same thing. As I mentioned to you, when we started in this crisis, 3 days before the government, whether it was in the state of Texas or the federal government, had decided to issue these stay-at-home, shelter-in-place orders, I had already sent my team home. We had already made the decision. Well, how did that decision come about? We already had a disaster plan. As an SBA resource partner, I know that the SBA, U.S. Small Business Administration, has tools to help folks develop, help companies develop disaster plans. And we knew at the time, you don't wait for a disaster to occur before you put together a disaster plan. You don't wait till you're in the fire to start trying to put out the fire, right? You put out the fire when you see the fire coming, and you prepare for it. You put your fire sprinklers in your building. You get your fire extinguishers and you put them somewhere around the building. You build up sand and get ready for a snowstorm. You build up sand piles and dirt piles and so forth, so that you prepare for the snowstorm. Well, it's the same thing in business. We recognize that there's always an answer, and even in the midst of a crisis, there's an answer. And if you view the crisis as an opportunity, then you respond very differently. So in our office, we responded very differently. We had already, in January of 2020, we had already started preparing virtual content and increasing our virtual library. We had already started relationships with other organizations that provide access to virtual content, so that we didn't have to recreate the wheel. We could just collaborate and partner with those folks who already had the virtual content, and then we could brand it and put it out through our platform as well. This was all part of our plan. This was all part of our disaster plan. So the moment that the U.S. went to shelter in place, the moment that the U.S. went to stay-at-home orders, all we had to do was flip a switch. All we had to do in our business is flip a switch, because we knew there was an answer, and we already had the answer and was listed in our disaster plan. You as a business owner, remember, we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about the fact that everything rises and falls on leadership. With you as the leader, where's your head? How are you seeing things? How are you viewing this crisis? Are you mumbling and groaning about the lost contract here and the lost contract there, albeit it might have been a huge contract? It might have been a critically important contract. But you get more of what you focus on. If you focus on the loss, then you get more loss. If you focus on the opportunity, then you find more opportunity. The very first car that I bought was a Saab, 1982 Saab 900 Turbo. It was black. Had louvers on the rear window, had a sunroof top. It had chrome wheels, it had burgundy velour interior. Some of you don't even know may not even know what velour is, but it was popular material for seats back in the day and so forth. I never saw that car except in a magazine. The day that I decided that I wanted to buy that car, I ripped the picture of that car out of the magazine and I posted inside my locker at the military academy. I walked out of my room at the military academy on my way to class. And as I was on my way to class, crossing the street, what do you think came driving past me at that very moment on my way to class? That very same Saab 900 Turbo, black, louvers on the rear window. I'd never seen it before except in the magazine, but yet there it was crossing me. Now, West Point is in New York. You can imagine all the cars in New York City. So one day I'm in New York City and I'm going west on a main street in New York City and I'm caught at the light. What do you think crosses the light in front of me? That very same car. Black Saab 900 turbo, louvers on the rear window, chrome wheels, burgundy velour interior. I'm in New York City. All of the cars in New York City, and I'm going north on a main thoroughfare in New York City. And what do you think pulls up right alongside of me? Same car. Black 900 turbo Saab. Louvers on the rear window, sunroof top, chrome wheels, burgundy velour interior. Did that car just suddenly appear? No. Car was always there. What happened, what changed was my perception. What changed was my awareness. The minute I made the decision that that was the car that I want, there was no way that that car was going to be anywhere in my environment without me noticing it. It was going to be nowhere in my peripheral vision where I could not notice that that car was there. But the car was always there. I just never noticed it because I had made the decision and that was the car that I wanted. It's the same thing in crisis. Opportunity always exists. There's always opportunities for you to get more contracts, for you to team up with another organization that has a contract, for you to dive deeper into the contracts that you're in, for you to do different things, and for you to find a brand new vertical and a brand new product or deliver a brand new service in the contracting space. The opportunities always exist. But until you make the decision to take advantage of the opportunity, those opportunities continue to pass you by. Why? Because your awareness is not at height. The crisis increases your awareness. In the middle of a crisis, your awareness is increased. And when you recognize and you carry this perspective number 2, there's always an answer. When you carry this perspective with you, that there's always an answer, you recognize that there's always an opportunity. And the minute that awareness increases, where you as the leader in your mindset are saying there's always an opportunity, there's no way for an opportunity to be anywhere in your environment, anywhere in your peripheral vision where you cannot see it. It's impossible. Philosopher Goethe says, until a decision is made, there's hesitance. Always a chance to draw back. But once you make the decision, then providence moves too. All sorts of things begin to occur that otherwise would have never occurred until you made the decision that there's an answer. That there's an answer. If you look at a crisis and you see the opportunity in the crisis, you take that perspective. Remember, we're talking about 11 perspective principles, 11 ways for you to perceive a crisis that will help you make it through the crisis. Perspective principle number 1 is everything worthwhile is uphill. Perspective principle number 2 is that there's always an answer. Let's look at perspective principle number 3. Allow adversity to help you discover who you are. Allow adversity to help you discover who you are. You've all taken personality profiles. Some of you have taken the DISC. Some of you have taken other types of personality profiles. Some of you have done Strength Finder 2.0. I mean, we can go on and on. The Strong's Interest Exam. In some way, shape, or form, somewhere in your life, you've evaluated yourself according to these standardized tests. And outside of the standardized tests, if you've been introspective enough as a leader, you've looked at yourself and you know what your strengths are. You wrote your resume. If nothing else, you know what the strengths of your company are because you wrote the company's capability statement, right? So you know what your strengths are and you know where your gaps are. But that's when you're in your comfort zone. Those strengths and everything about you and those skills, and those abilities, capabilities, that's when you're rocking and rolling. That's when you're moving full speed ahead. That's when you're doing what you know how to do, what you do on an everyday in an everyday scenario, in an everyday situation. But when a crisis occurs, when adversity hits, the real you steps up. The real you steps up. If you're an evil person in a crisis, you just become more evil. If you're an angry person in a crisis, you just become more angry. If you're a happy person, I'm a happy person, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a happy person in a crisis, you just get more happy. If you're a creative person in a crisis, you become more creative. If you're an innovative person in a crisis, you become more innovative. If you're a problem solver in a crisis, you solve more problems. The crisis reveals who you truly are, but it also reveals your gaps. So as you look at your business right now, as you look at your company right now, the crisis, the adversity itself, if it did nothing else for you, what it revealed, what it should have done for you is revealed where the gaps are in your organization. Where are the gaps in your processes? Where are the gaps in your communication? Some of you have large organizations with large teams. Some of you are a 1 and 2 man shop, so on and so forth. But either way, communication is critical. Adversity, if nothing else, it lets you know what your communication looks like, whether when you're communicating with your customers and the government agencies, when you're communicating with your partners, the organizations that you team with, and your vendors and your suppliers, whether you're communicating with your internally with your team members and employees that work with you and work for you. Adversity revealed those gaps and said, hey, do we have the right systems in place? Do we have the right processes in place so that we can communicate in every scenario, in every situation? You all wore the uniform. I've never been deployed, but you understand battle scenarios. In a battle scenario, it's critical that you're able to communicate with the rest of your team. It's critical that you're able to communicate with the rest of your team. You need somebody to come and flank on the left or flank on the right, or you need some A-10s to fly overhead, whatever the case may be. If your communication is shut down, how do you get the support that you need? That adversity, if nothing else, it revealed for you who you are as an individual, and it revealed for you who you are as a company, where the gaps are, and where things are in your company. Ladies and gentlemen, those are 3 perspective principles of the 11 perspective principles, 3 different ways for you as a leader to perceive an adversity. And it's the perception, is how you view things that will determine how you make it through this adversity, how you get through to the other side. Let's quickly look at the other 11 perspective principles. Let's just kind of quickly walk through those. Develop a positive life stance. Principle number 4 over here, develop a positive life stance. That's an obvious one. I'm not going to go into detail, but in plain, simple terms, it just says choose a consistent attitude that influences your behavior. What's the attitude that you carry in every situation, in good times or in bad? What's the attitude that you carry when you're communicating with your team, when you're communicating with your suppliers and your supporters? What's the attitude that you carry when you're communicating with your vendors, when you're communicating with your customers? Is it a positive life stance? Is it a positive attitude? Are you depressed and upset and discouraged and disgruntled about the fact that you have to work remotely? Are you disgruntled about the fact that the contract was supposed to start yesterday, but instead the contract's been put off for 6 months? Well, what else can I do for this customer today? I know the customer has no need. I had a class that I'm supposed to teach tomorrow at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base here in Fort Worth. And because of this snowstorm that came through here, the class is canceled. There's 23 people who are expected to attend that class tomorrow. It was a live class tomorrow, 23 people. I can look at that negatively, or I could do what I did. I sent out communication to all 23 people who were registered for the class to let them know that the class is available virtually and that I can do the class virtually and do it online. I gave them all the login information and everything that they need to be able to log in and take the same class, receive the same content virtually tomorrow and Thursday. I also gave them access to an on-demand course, the exact same course that's available on demand, where they can take it at their leisure. Why? Because we created this content, preparing for this time frame. We didn't wait for the time frame to happen. Feed your faith and starve your fears. That's principle number 5 over here. Feed your faith and starve your fears. What is it that you believe in? What is it that you believe about society as a whole? What is it that you believe in about the world as a whole? What is it that you believe in about life as a whole? What is it that you believe in about your business and about the value that your business brings to its customers and to the world around you, about the value that your business brings to the employees and to the vendors? What is it that you believe? Feed that belief instead of feeding on the negativity and all the challenges that are going on in the environment. Recognize that motions influence emotions. That means get busy. You can't sit still. Be in motion, right? Motions influence emotions. Be in motion. Get busy. Don't sit still waiting for things to happen. You be the one to make things happen. You make the phone call. You set up the, I'm thankful for what Earl and Scott have done in putting together these Charlie Mike seminars, because typically the National Veterans Small Business Coalition would be out hosting events and out displaying at other events and out helping you to build your business and bringing content to you through live seminars and live workshops. And they could be sitting still right now waiting for this crisis to turn itself around. But instead, Earl had the foresight enough, along with Scott and the rest of the team, to say, hey, let's put together this seminar series, the Charlie Mike seminar, so that we can still empower and impact our clients, empower and impact our members. Because they recognize that what really matters is that today matters. That's principle number 7. Today matters. What you do today determines what your business is going to look like tomorrow. You can't wait for tomorrow for things to turn around and for things to get better, for you to all of a sudden decide, well, we'll get this done as soon as they get this virus thing figured out. Well, we'll get this done and things will be better as soon as we all get vaccinated. Well, we'll get this done as soon as no. Today matters. What are you doing today in your business? What are you doing in terms of processes? What are you doing today in terms of communication? What are you doing today in terms of looking for opportunities and ways to meet the demands, the new demands that are occurring out there in the market, new ways to deliver your product and your service, new customers to deliver your product and your service today? Because today is what really matters. And you got to make today count. When I'm sitting here at home with my wife, because we have shelter in place rules and stay at home orders and so on and so forth, man, you got to believe today matters. I am so excited to be home with her day after day after day, and to be able to snuggle and to hug and to dance to some YouTube line dancing, and to be able to interact with my kids and my grandkids and so forth. Yeah, it's virtual interaction. Yeah, it's Zoom meetings and so on and forth. But you know what? We've had just as much fun in our Zoom meetings and in our Zoom interaction as we have in our live interaction. Yeah, we missed the hugs and the kisses and so on and so forth of our kids and our grandkids and so forth. But we've done that. We've done all the virtual hugging that we can do, and we continue to do it. Number 7. Number 8, as you look out here, reflect instead of react to adversity. The only way that you can reflect is you reflect through preparation, right? Preparation prevents poor planning, right? When you prepare, it prevents you from being stuck out there in the midst of this crisis. But the only way that you're going to be able to reflect is if you proactively prepare. U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance, this is not new to them. PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, and the EIDL loan, the emergency disaster loan, that's a new loan, new by legislation. PPP is a new product, new by legislation, but the SBA Office of Disaster Assistance has been around for over 50 years. They've been dealing with disasters for over 50 years. So the question I have for you is, what type of relationship do you currently have with the Office of Disaster Assistance? Are you waiting for a crisis? Did you wait for a crisis? Hundreds and hundreds of small businesses failed during this coronavirus environment, during this crisis, because they didn't have a relationship with the U.S. Small Business Administration, because they were not aware of U.S. Small Business Administration resources, so on and so forth, because they didn't have a disaster plan. The Office of Disaster Assistance, yes, this is a huge disaster for them because it's all across the country, is rampant, and they're having to help every jurisdiction in all 50 states and even outside the continental U.S. They're having to help everybody through the crisis and so forth. But the Office of Disaster Assistance has been around 50 years plus. They've been ready to respond, and they responded after hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes and you name it. They know how to keep businesses up and running. They know how to keep businesses going. This is a huge magnitude for them, but they know what it is that they're doing. The only way that you can reflect instead of react is that you put together a disaster plan, that you prepare in advance. The neat thing about adversity in number 9, perspective principle number 9, is that adversity makes you relatable to others, right? Right now, this adversity is a unique adversity, this coronavirus adversity, because there's no one in the country, in fact, no one in the world today, there's no one who can say that they hadn't experienced something during this coronavirus environment, during this coronavirus crisis. So it's not unique to any one of us. See, the Vietnam vets can say Vietnam was unique to them, and that experience was a unique experience to them. The same thing that someone who's deployed, because I was never deployed, someone who's deployed can say that their military experience is unique to them, which is different from my military experience. Right? It's different, but we both have military experience. Your business is different from business B, different from business C. But guess what? Every last one of us, whether you were a Vietnam vet or whether you were the modern day vet, post 9/11 vet, whether you were business A or business C, D, and E, whether you male or female, whether you black or white, whether you tall or short, every last one of us is experiencing the exact same impact, the exact same stimuli as it relates to this coronavirus environment. We're all going through it together. So that makes us all relatable. I can now relate to you as I talk about what coronavirus is doing to me and my business. You can relate to what some coronavirus has done and is doing to somebody else in their business, and so on and so forth. It makes us relatable. We're all able now to engage and to communicate on something that we all have in common. And that's rare. It's rare that everyone in the entire world, besides being human and having a human race in common, it's rare that everyone in the entire world now has the ability to say that we all have something in common. And that's the coronavirus impact, the coronavirus influence upon our lives and upon our business. Perspective principle number 10. Always look for the big picture. What's the big picture here? You started your business for a specific reason, right? You started and you have a specific value proposition. You have a unique value that you bring to the market, that you bring to your customers. Your business represents a unique value for yourself personally, for your family, for your employees and their families, for your vendors, and all of the things that you impact on your vendors, and for your customers, and for all the impact that you have on your customers. If we step back and take a 30,000-foot view of you and your business, what's the big picture? What's the big picture? And if you keep your eye on the prize, if you keep your eye on the big picture instead of the small thing, the small inconvenience that coronavirus has caused, the small inconvenience that this scenario has caused, the small, and you know, if you keep it in perspective, it's all small, right? I know it seems big and it feels big because that may have been a huge contract that set you back, but it's still small in the grand scheme of your business. It's still small in the grand scheme of life and what you have the capacity to do and the capacity to achieve. So keep your perspective always on the big picture. Don't get caught in the minutia of things. And then finally, perspective principle number 11, perspective principle about crisis number 11. Adversity makes a person grow strong and mature. I don't know about you, and I don't know how this coronavirus has impacted you, but for me, it's just like going to the gym, right? Working out. If I don't put some adversity and put some stress on this muscle is not going to grow. But the moment I put some stress on this muscle, it tears the muscle. And then in the healing process of the muscle being torn, the muscle regrows and it grows to be stronger. As I'm bench pressing, it tears the muscles, right? As I put that adversity on my chest, it tears the muscle. And in the healing process, as the muscle heals, the chest gets stronger. The coronavirus may have torn through your business. It may have torn through your personal life. But with the right perspective, you'll recognize that what the coronavirus did is it actually gave you an opportunity to grow stronger. My relationship with my wife is stronger than ever. We've been married 35 years. You wonder how can it get stronger? It gets stronger every day, but we've been married 35 years. It's stronger, right? We enjoy one another's company. We enjoy what we're doing. We're finding out more about one another, even after 35 years. It's just getting stronger and stronger. Your business will get stronger and stronger if you allow it to grow and you allow adversity to make your business stronger. What did adversity do? Adversity forced you to put a specific process in place that you were delaying on putting in place that you needed in place in the first place. Adversity forced you to communicate in a certain way that you should have been communicating in the first place. You should have had this process in place for you to be able to communicate in this way in the first place as just another form of communication. Some of you were avoiding social media, but you had to go to social media. Some of you were avoiding virtual meetings, but you had to go to virtual meetings. Some of you were avoiding using technology, but you had to go to technology to stay in contact with your customers and your vendors and your clients and everyone and your team and so on and so forth. You've now grown. You now know more about technology today than you did at the start of this crisis. You now know more about your companies, your strengths and your weaknesses, your SWOT analysis, right? You know more about your company today, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats. You know more about your SWOT of your company today than you did 18 months ago. Why? Because this crisis has forced you to look at it. It's forced you to identify it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes here open for us to talk about, to answer any questions or comments that you have. But I did want to put this up on the screen. If you want to dive deeper into these 11 perspective principles and you want to figure out how you can more effectively apply them, not only in your business, but also in your life, there's 2 different ways that you can reconnect with me to dive deeper into these principles. One is you can do one-on-one executive coaching. That's just bit.ly, bit.ly/Coach Patrick. Or you can join the mastermind group where you can network with other business owners just like you. And the other business owners just like you can all come together and begin to talk about best practices and ideals and ways that you are making it through this particular crisis, that your companies are growing and your companies are getting stronger, the teaming opportunities and so forth. And again, that's at bit.ly, bit.ly/crisis NVSBC. That's National Veteran Small Business Coalition. That's crisis NVSBC. So with our last 10 minutes here, ladies and gentlemen, let's open up for Q&A. Let's open up.
Thank you. Yeah. First question that like to ask is, you've gone through quite a bit of detail here. What would you say is the most important best practice for a business leader in crisis?
You know, the most important thing for a business leader, not only in crisis, but at any time, is to focus on the owner, not the business. The business will never outgrow the thinking of the owner, Scott. And if you are an owner who thinks at a level 5, your business will never grow beyond that level 5. When you as an owner are able to grow your thinking to a level 7, then your business will come up and match at that level 7. As you as the owner grow, your business grows. So the best practice, the number one practice for a business owner in every situation is to develop the owner, not the business. Because as the owner develops, the business will develop.
Great, thank you. What are you seeing the most successful folks doing to stay on track in the midst of, generally speaking, adversity, but particularly currently with all that businesses are facing right now? What are the really successful folks doing that sets them apart?
What we're seeing and what we're finding, and even in the research, as we're constantly doing surveys since the beginning of this crisis and even before this crisis, what we're finding is the most successful folks, one is that they're taking on these 11 perspective principles. They're staying positive, they're staying focused. But most importantly, what they're doing is they're looking in the marketplace and they're finding new opportunities. The most successful people are looking out in the marketplace and they're getting outside of themselves and they're saying, I know my business was developed, designed, and created to provide product A and service B. But business is about solving problems, and the most successful businesses are looking out there and saying, okay, what kind of problems exist in the marketplace right now? And what capacity do we have as an organization to solve those problems? And they're reinventing themselves and they're solving the new problems in the marketplace for their same old customers and for new customers. So it sounds trite when we talk about reinventing itself, but that's the reality of what the most successful companies are doing. They're not looking internally and saying, we deliver product A and service B, and we just got to find more places for product A and service B. They're doing just the opposite. They're looking in the market and saying, what are some of the new problems that are in the marketplace, and how can we change our capacity to serve those new problems that are in the marketplace?
Great. So is there any magic sauce that a business owner can take to make a difference in every situation?
Yeah, I think I'm just a fan of having what we call a Bales team. That's a support team, right? The B in Bales stands for banker. The A stands for the accountant. The I stands for an insurance agent, and the L stands for a lawyer. I actually put 2 more letters in there. I put an R in there. I call it the Braille's team. I put an R in there, and I say you also need to have a realtor, even a commercial realtor, so that you can have somebody to help you evaluate lease for buildings and things of that nature. And then the S on the end of the Braille's team is your significant other, right? You don't try to do business without having a special relationship and right communication with your significant other. But I think the secret sauce to success in business and the secret sauce to success in life is to recognize that success leaves clues. It really does. Success leaves clues. And there's no reason for you to have to make all the mistakes on your own when there's a world of folks around you who've already made the mistakes and who've already succeeded. The best thing that you can do and the most important thing that you can do to succeed as a business owner in life is surround yourself with people who've been there and done that. That means either you join a mastermind group, or you get yourself a coach, or you create an advisory board for your company. Whatever the case may be, surround yourself. You guys have done a great job at NVS BC. Your organization itself creates an environment where everybody who's a member can be connected to other members and learn best practices from one another, get feedback from one another, team up on contracts with one another. All of that happens inside of NVSBC. There's no reason for any member of NVSBC or any prospective member of NVSBC to be out there trying to do business on their own, to be out there trying to be in contracting on their own. Not when organizations like you exist to help them learn from folks who've been there and done that, Scott. That's my final 2 cents. I want to say thank you to you and to Earl for the opportunity to share these words of wisdom with your audience and with your members. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I wish everyone all the opportunities available to make it through this crisis.
Patrick, we sure appreciate it. We appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm and your commitment to our veteran and military related business owners and those who are trying to become business owners. We trust your friendship, and we look forward to seeing you throughout 2021, and hopefully we'll see you in person here at the end of the year as our conferences start opening back up, both on your end and our end. So thanks so much again. We appreciate it. Thanks to all of those who've joined us, and we'll see you at the next installment of Charlie Mike. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. See you now. Thanks again, Patrick.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Earl. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.